As the Las Vegas Raiders gear up for the 2025 NFL season, there's one area they absolutely have to get right: upgrading their offensive playmakers. Right now, when you take a look at the running back and wide receiver groups, things aren't looking too promising. If this is the unit they plan to roll into week one with, well, it's hard to feel confident about a playoff run. And let's be real, this is a season where the Raiders are clearly aiming to compete. They've made moves that scream, win now. There's definitely some healthy skepticism from fans. After all, we've heard the hype before, and more often than not, it hasn't delivered. But the front office isn't holding back this time. From acquiring a new quarterback to structuring Max Crosby's contract for short-term flexibility, everything points toward an aggressive push to contend. The problem? That push is going to stall if they don't fix the backfield and the receiving cores. Let's start with the running backs. Right now, the group just doesn't spark much excitement. Raheem Mostert is the most recognizable name, but he's past his prime. He had a resurgence a couple of seasons ago, but struggled last year despite being in one of the most running back-friendly systems in the league. Now he's joining an offense that's still figuring out its identity. At his age, it's a gamble. Behind him, not much to get fired up about. Sincere McCormick hasn't shown enough to be considered a long-term option, and Zamir White hasn't lived up to expectations at all. Frankly, it's surprising he's still on the roster. The wild card here is Dylan Laub. He's a young player with some upside, but banking on a breakout from a second-year back with limited experience is risky. Bottom line, the Raiders need a fresh, dynamic running back, someone who can change the game. But that's not the only concern. The wide receiver room is equally thin. Outside of Jacoby Myers, there isn't much in terms of proven talent, and even with Myers, you're not getting a true game changer. He's reliable, sure, crisp route runner, dependable hands, but he's not the type of guy who's going to take a slant to the house or torch defenders deep. Myers is a solid piece, but the Raiders don't just need solid, they need explosive. Right now, they don't have that on the outside. Brock Bowers at tight end, that's exciting. He's the real deal and could become the focal point of the offense. Michael Mayer still has potential, but hasn't quite broken out yet. Trey Tucker is another name to watch. The tools are there, but it's still all theoretical. Until someone steps up and proves they can be a difference maker, this offense has a serious ceiling. With training camp still a couple of months away, the next 6 to 12 weeks are absolutely crucial for the Raiders. Whether it's through the draft, post-draft moves, or even a late free agent signing, they need to lock in their offensive strategy, especially at wide receiver and running back. Adding a veteran like Raheem Mostert gave them some short-term flexibility, but these positions still need serious attention. Let's break down what the Raiders could realistically do. If they're thinking wide receiver at number 6 overall, there are options, but it's a risky move unless you're getting a true star. Drafting a wideout that high only makes sense if you're landing a potential game changer. Otherwise, it's a reach. Look back a couple of years, guys like Quentin Johnston, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and others came off the board early, but none were considered on the same level as elite prospects like Jamar Chase or this year's standout, Malik Nabers. That's the issue with reaching for a wide receiver who isn't that guy. This year, Travis Hunter might be the only true elite wide receiver talent in the class. If the Raiders use their top pick on someone like Tederoa McMillan or Kyle Williams, it might be a stretch. Both have impressive tape, Williams in particular, but there's no clear consensus on whether they're worth that number 6 selection. Players like Matthew Golden have shown flashes, but again, it's hard to justify taking them that early. If the plan is to wait and target a wide receiver in the 2nd or 3rd round, the odds of landing a true day one starter drop significantly. And for a team trying to win right now, that's a risk. The window is open. The Raiders' recent decisions show they're not trying to build for the future. They're trying to win immediately. So, what are the options? They could flip the script and take a running back with their top pick. A name like Ashton Jeanty comes to mind. That would allow them to circle back in the 2nd round and grab a receiver who falls. Someone like Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden, or Jalen Noel. Noel, in particular, fits the mold of a true X-receiver. Tall, physical, and polished. Kyle Williams is another name that might be available in round 2. His stock is all over the place on mock draft boards, but many believe he'll go higher than projected. Even someone like Ty Felton could sneak up into that conversation. There's also the Luther Burden factor. A lot of fans don't realize that coming into this college season, NFL scouts ranked him as the number, one player in the entire class, according to sources like NGS and the Lot Report. While his production dipped a bit, he's still a first-round talent and should be off the board by pick 30 or 35. Whatever path they choose, running back first, receiver second, or vice versa, the Raiders need to nail it. These are foundational moves for a team that's no longer playing the long game. The time to win is now. Now, if the Raiders somehow end up in a position to draft Travis Hunter, that could be a total game changer. It's a long shot, let's be honest, but not impossible. A couple of quarterbacks are likely to go early. There's always the chance that a team near the top prioritizes a top-tier corner, like Will Johnson or Terrion Arnold. Maybe someone falls in love with Ashton Jeanty or targets an offensive tackle. If 5 of those names come off the board ahead of Vegas, there's a slim but real chance Hunter is still available at number 6. And if that happens, the Raiders should sprint to the podium. Travis Hunter is the type of elite difference maker you take without hesitation. He's the one wide receiver in this class who justifies a top 10 pick. If they land him early, it opens up all kinds of flexibility in round 2, especially with how deep this running back class is. And make no mistake, this year's RB class is stacked. Ashton Jeanty could go top 10. Amari Hampton may sneak into the top 15 or 20. After that, it's a bit of a free-for-all. Caleb Johnson going in the late first? Totally possible. Tre'Veyon Henderson? R.J. Harvey? Both guys could easily land in the back half of round 1. R.J. Harvey in particular is drawing some serious comparisons to a young Josh Jacobs. He's powerful, tough, and can handle a full workload. It wouldn't be shocking at all to see him off the board by pick 40. And the depth doesn't stop there. Dylan Sampson is explosive and electric in the open field. Bashard Smith converted from wide receiver to running back at SMU and lit it up. He racked up over 1,300 yards and had an incredible yards per carry average. Then there's Raheem Sanders. Remember him? He looked dominant at Arkansas before injuries derailed his season. Transferred to South Carolina, didn't look 100%, but still has all the tools. If healthy, he's a top 100 talent without question. Jacobius Marks brings speed and quickness, especially on outside zone runs. Mario Anderson impressed at the Hula Bowl, and Shakari Krosky-Merritt, MVP of the East-West Shrine Bowl, is another name worth watching. He missed last season due to eligibility issues, but talent-wise, legit. Honestly, this is one of the deepest RB classes in recent memory, and that's why the Raiders should strongly consider taking 2 running backs in this draft. Here's the thing. If Vegas grabs one in round 2 and adds another later, say in round 4 or 5, there's a very real chance both would be better than anyone currently on the roster. That's how thin this backfield is right now. Same goes for the wide receivers. Take Verone Katani, for example. He flashed a little in preseason, sure. But the truth is, if a wide receiver has true NFL-level talent, you usually see it pretty early. Look around the league. Even undrafted rookies are stepping into big roles and producing out of the gate. And right now, outside of Jacoby Myers, the Raiders just don't have many players on the roster who've proven they can do that. The bottom line? Vegas has to upgrade at both running back and wide receiver. The depth is thin, the upside is limited, and if the team wants to capitalize on this win-now window, they have to get aggressive in this draft. Sometimes, you can just tell early on if a young player has that it factor. If they flash right away, there's usually something to build on. But right now, the Raiders are carrying a lot of names that feel more like placeholders than real difference makers. Take a guy like Tyreek McAllister. He's shown some flashes and might have something to offer, but is he a true wide receiver or more of a gadget player? Same with Trey Tucker. Until someone steps up and proves they can be a reliable target, this group feels unproven and a little too thin. But here's the silver lining. This upcoming draft could provide the kind of top-tier help the Raiders desperately need. Let's say they land someone like Travis Hunter at number 6, or even Ashton Jeanty if they decide to go the running back route. Either way, you're adding a player who could instantly become one of your best offensive weapons. Think about it. Pair that with Brock Bowers, who's already one of the top tight end prospects in the league, and Paris Johnson anchoring the line. Suddenly, you're building a core with star-level potential at multiple key positions. If the Raiders hit on that first pick, they'll have flexibility in round 2 to chase more talent at wide receiver. Guys like Kyle Williams, Emeka Egbuka, and Luther Burden could still be on the board, and all 3 have legit starting potential. Now, yes, Second-round wideouts often take time to develop, but this class is unique. It's loaded with guys who could start within a year or two. Across the board, this draft is just deep. There are probably 10-plus defensive tackles with starter-level ability, around 15 running backs who could start in the NFL, another 15 edge rushers. We could easily see 8 defensive ends or wide receivers go in the top 45 picks. This class is stacked, and for a team like the Raiders, that's huge. Now, shifting gears quickly, the Raiders did make a few minor moves recently, re-signing 5 of their exclusive rights free agents. Nothing flashy here, no Max Crosby headlines, but still worth noting. They've retained defensive lineman Matthew Butler, linebacker Kana'i Mauga, offensive lineman Jordan Meredith, edge rusher Charles Snowden, and cornerback Sam Webb. These aren't needle movers, but there are a few interesting names in the mix. Matthew Butler, for instance, was a 5th-round pick out of Tennessee. His first 4 years in college were solid but unspectacular. Then he exploded in his 5th year and showed real potential. The upside was there, even if it hasn't fully translated to the NFL yet. The fact that the Raiders kept him while moving on from guys like Neil Farrell shows they still believe in his potential. He hasn't shown the kind of spark Malcolm Kuntz flashed when he started to break out, but the team clearly sees something worth developing. If Butler can finally put it all together, he could carve out a role on the D-line rotation this year. Sometimes it's easy to spot future stars early. The moment they step onto the field, even in preseason, you just know. With Matthew Butler, that breakout moment hasn't happened yet, but the potential is still there. He hasn't flashed superstar traits, but he's looked solid. There's still long-term upside. Maybe it takes him until year 5 or 6, maybe even later, but there's a chance he develops into a reliable pass rusher. This offseason will be critical for him. Training camp and preseason will offer a real opportunity to prove he belongs in the defensive line rotation. There's a similar situation with cornerback Sam Webb. He's an intriguing player who's been with the Raiders through several coaching cycles. While he's flown under the radar, Webb has consistently shown promise. He's still relatively young, and this could be the year it clicks. Physically, he's a great fit for the Raiders' new defensive scheme under PeteCarroll. At 6 feet 2 inches, 200 pounds, he mirrors the size profile Carroll has preferred in the past. Think Eric Stokes. On the flip side, cornerbacks like Jack Jones, who didn't fit that mold, didn't last long on the roster. Sam Webb fits the blueprint and has familiarity with the system, so don't be surprised if he starts rising up the depth chart this summer. Now, let's shift gears to one of the biggest names being linked to the Raiders, Ashton Jeanty. A new report from ESPN's Matt Miller suggests the Bears are very high on Jeanty. According to multiple league scouts, Chicago has shown consistent interest in the Boise State standout, and he could be their target at pick number 10. Now you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with the Raiders? Let's connect the dots. Reports like this matter because of what they signal. NFL scouts aren't casually checking in with every single player. When a team consistently scouts, interviews, and circles back on the same prospect, it means something. That was clear at this year's Hula Bowl, where scouts were laser-focused on specific guys day after day. If the Bears are aggressively scouting Jeanty, setting up visits, reviewing tape, engaging in deep film sessions, that's not noise. That's a real signal. And consider this. Chicago's new offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, comes from Detroit, where he played a key role in drafting Jahmyr Gibbs in the top 15 last year. Johnson clearly isn't afraid to invest early in the right running back. So if he sees Jeanty as a similar impact player, don't be shocked if he pulls the trigger again. Plus, the Bears roster is in a great spot. They've got a franchise right tackle, 2 veteran guards, a solid left tackle, not a ton of glaring needs. That gives them flexibility to take a player like Jeanty if they believe he can elevate the offense. And that's where it gets interesting for Vegas. If the Bears do grab Jeanty at number 10, that removes one of the top running backs from the board and could shift how the Raiders approach their second-round pick. They'll need to stay alert, ready to pivot, and take advantage of how the board falls. The key takeaway? The Raiders need to stay aggressive and strategic, especially at skill positions. Whether it's a guy like Sam Webb making a jump or tracking prospects like Jeanty as the draft unfolds, this offseason is full of potential, if they play it right. The Bears are entering a pivotal year. Their roster is shaping up well. They've got their quarterback, a solid group of wide receivers, and one of the top 10 defenses from last season. They even made moves along the offensive line, trading for a center to help solidify protection. With all that in place, the door is wide open for them to draft a running back at number 10, and that could make their offense even more dynamic, especially with offensive coordinator Ben Johnson calling the shots. He's done this before. Remember, he was part of the Lions staff that drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in the top 15. If Johnson sees a similar kind of impact player in Ashton Jeanty, history could repeat itself. But here's where things get interesting, and where it could affect the Raiders. Las Vegas has shown serious interest in Jeanty. In fact, their general manager JohnSpytek was the only GM to attend Boise State's Pro Day. He met privately with Jeanty, even took him out to dinner, and followed up with an official visit. That's not casual interest, that's commitment. So what's the strategy? The Raiders might be setting the stage to trade down from pick number 6, and this Bears report could help make that happen. If Chicago is locked in on Jeanty, Las Vegas has leverage. A move from pick 6 to 10 could net the Raiders an extra second or third rounder, a valuable chip in this year's deep draft. And the talent at 10 will still be there. Prospects like Tedairoa McMillan, Kyle Williams, or Luther Burden could easily be available. If the Raiders miss out on a player like Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter at 6, moving back starts to make a lot of sense. The risk? If they stand pat and draft a running back like Jeanty that early, they may be passing up more positional value, especially in a class stacked with RB talent. Trading back might not land them Jeanty, but it could still land them a very good skill player plus an extra pick. And in this draft, that third rounder could turn into a starting caliber offensive lineman or defensive tackle. It all depends on how the board falls and whether another team is ready to make the leap. The Raiders tried to move down in the past, notably during the Clelin Ferrell pick, but couldn't find a trade partner. That mistake led to reaching for need instead of taking the best available talent. This time, if the right offer is there, moving back could be the smarter move, especially if a player like Jeanty is still within reach later. And if Hunter or Carter is available at 6, that's when you stay put and take your difference maker. One thing's clear, the Raiders are being aggressive and strategic, and how they handle this pick will say a lot about the direction of the franchise.